What if your reality isn't actually fixed? What if you could shift the world around you by focusing your attention differently? It might sound impossible, but consider those days when one small setback, like spilling your coffee in the morning, causes the whole day to unravel. In contrast, think about the days when you're so excited or in love with a new idea that nothing seems to go wrong, or if it does, you barely notice it. In both cases, the biggest difference isn't the outside world, but your inner focus. Your attention is like a flashlight in a dark room. Wherever you shine it, that area springs to life, while the rest remains dim or hidden. Sometimes life feels stuck on repeat. The same arguments, the same struggles at work, or a recurring sense of frustration you just can't shake. But what if those repetitive issues aren't the universe plotting against you, but simply a reflection of where you've been directing your energy? If your mind keeps circling back to fears, doubts, and problems, it's like watering the weeds in your garden rather than the flowers. More often than not, we unwittingly grow what we most want to eliminate. Today, we're going to break down how to change that. We'll explore why observation is so powerful, how two kinds of attention shape your reality, and how you can deliberately choose the one that helps you thrive. We'll also walk through the practical steps to turn your new focus into real-life transformation. Finally, we'll talk about how to align your heart and mind in a way that makes this new reality sustainable. My goal is to offer you not just a conceptual framework, but real steps you can use to become the architect of your own experience. So let's begin this journey together. I want you to open your mind to the possibility that your focus is far more powerful than you might have believed. In fact, it's one of the most creative forces in your life, capable of either keeping you trapped or setting you free. Why observation is the key to reality creation. Let's start by revisiting a time when life's pace was slower, but the insights were deeper. Ancient monasteries where yogis and Buddhist monks dedicated themselves to unraveling the nature of existence. Without modern tools or scientific experiments, these spiritual masters discovered something profound. The act of observing can transform both your inner and outer world. They had no access to smartphones or microscopes, yet they meticulously observed their thoughts, emotions, and the subtleties of their environment. Through this careful practice, they realized a transformative truth. Simply observing an emotion, whether it's anger, love, fear, or joy, can reduce its grip on you. Their teachings reflected the belief that your inner state often mirrors your interactions with the world around you. Interestingly, modern science supports this ancient wisdom. In quantum physics, the observer effect reveals that the very act of observing particles can alter their behavior. Reality, it turns out, isn't as fixed or solid as we once believed. Instead, it's shaped by the relationship between the observer and the observed. To simplify, let's return to the flashlight metaphor. Imagine you're in a dark room holding a flashlight. When you turn it on and point it at a particular object, that object springs into focus, illuminated and vivid. The rest of the room fades into darkness as though it doesn't exist. Your attention works the same way. Wherever you shine your mental flashlight, on worries, excitement, or gratitude, that's what becomes the center of your reality. Think about it. One negative event in the morning can color your entire day. Maybe you wake up late, miss your bus, and spill coffee on your shirt. Suddenly, it feels as though the universe is against you. Your mind is locked onto negativity, and you start noticing every minor inconvenience as proof of your bad day. That's your flashlight stuck in a loop of frustration. But flip the script. Imagine waking up excited, perhaps for a long-awaited vacation or a new creative project. Even if you hit traffic or face minor setbacks, they barely faze you. Your focus is anchored in something positive, and you brush off inconveniences with ease. This shift doesn't just change how you feel. It opens your mind to possibilities and opportunities you might otherwise overlook. It's the difference between seeing obstacles or solutions everywhere. Ancient masters taught that observation isn't just about looking or labeling. It's about noticing with awareness without being swept away by emotional reactions. This kind of observation invites you to see reality as it truly is, flexible and responsive, not rigid or fixed. By moving from a reactive observer to an intentional creator, you begin to harness one of life's most powerful forces, your attention. When you master this, you're no longer at the mercy of life's ups and downs. Instead, you become the architect of your own experience, and that's where true transformation begins. The two types of attention. Now that we've established how crucial your attention is in shaping reality, let's look at the two main ways we typically direct it. I'll call these polar attention and non-polar attention. Polar attention is charged with emotion. It's like a powerful magnet that either draws in or repels experiences, depending on how you feel. Imagine you have a new project at work and you're paralyzed by fear of failure. The more you focus on the possibility of messing up, the more every small setback appears like proof that you're doomed. This attention is polarized by fear. It amplifies every little problem, fueling a downward spiral of self-doubt. But it's not always negative. Think about the early stages of falling in love, when you can't stop thinking about someone. You might suddenly notice music everywhere that reminds you of them, or catch yourself daydreaming of future adventures. That excited, love-charged focus is also polar attention. It's just on the positive end of the emotional spectrum. You attract more sweet moments, more serendipitous connections, sometimes to the point of missing red flags because your attention is locked onto the bliss. Here lies the double-edged sword. Polar attention locks you into whatever state you're in. If it's a good one, you might feel wonderful, but you can become blind to certain realities or to changes you need to make. If it's negative, you can dig yourself deeper into misery by obsessively feeding the problem. Non-polar attention, on the other hand, is neutral. It's about observing a situation or emotion without labeling it as good or bad, or letting it drag you around by the collar. Imagine you feel anger welling up because someone cut you off in traffic. With polar attention, you might fume about it all day, picturing elaborate scenarios of how you've been wronged. With non-polar attention, you notice the anger, acknowledge that it's there, and let it float by like a cloud in the sky. You don't feed it with additional complaints or catastrophic thinking. Society often conditions us to operate primarily in polar attention because fear and excitement are big drivers of human behavior. We're taught to fixate on problems, to worry about what could go wrong, and to compete out of fear of missing out. Media headlines often highlight threats, controversies, or drama, training us to remain on alert. Over time, this can become our default mode. We're like moths circling the brightest light, even if that light is a burning flame. Breaking free requires retraining your focus. Instead of getting caught in emotional whirlpools, you can learn to observe feelings and experiences with neutrality. This might sound like it dulls your emotions, but in reality, it allows you to handle them more effectively, preserving your energy for what truly matters. Breaking free with non-polar attention. Neutrality is frequently misunderstood. It's not about indifference or apathy. It's about power, specifically the power to choose how to respond to life's inevitable ups and downs. When you're neutral, you're like the calm eye of a storm. Chaos can swirl all around you, but inside you maintain clarity. You're not ignoring the chaos, you're simply not letting it own your emotions. Let me illustrate with a personal story. A friend of mine once had a boss who seemed impossible to please, constantly nitpicking and micromanaging. She started each morning bracing for conflict. Her flashlight of attention was fixed on the negatives, every critical email, every curt remark. It wasn't surprising that her stress levels skyrocketed. She was living in polar attention, fueling a narrative that her workplace was unbearable. One day, after months of frustration, she decided to experiment with a new approach. Rather than labeling her boss's behavior as bad and herself as a victim, she practiced observing. She paid attention to how her body felt when receiving feedback, maybe a tightness in her chest or a knot in her stomach, without immediately concluding that this feedback was an attack on her worth. She'd take a breath, read the email or listen to the remark, and try to find any lesson or neutral bit of data in it. In this neutral space, she started noticing patterns. Her boss was detail-oriented to an extreme, so instead of viewing it as an insult, she saw it as a chance to refine her own attention to detail. Over time, her perspective shifted. She stopped feeding her fears and resentments, and as a result, her boss's behavior seemed less personal. Eventually, she found herself feeling more confident and even earned a promotion. That outcome might not have been possible if she'd stayed locked in polar attention, resisting and resenting every piece of criticism. Think of your emotions like clouds. They drift into your awareness: anger, happiness, frustration, longing. But they can also drift out if you don't attach yourself to them. With nonpolar attention, you can watch them come and go, acknowledging they're there, but not letting them hijack your day. This doesn't mean you won't feel strong emotions. You'll still feel them, but you'll have the choice to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. What does your life look like when you stop feeding the negative cycles? Often, it means you free up a tremendous amount of mental and emotional energy. You start noticing what's right about your situation, or at least how certain challenges can be stepping stones rather than roadblocks. The path of least resistance isn't laziness. Sometimes it's wisdom. You flow with events rather than fight them, and ironically, that's often when real change becomes possible. The 3 steps to manifesting your reality. Now that you understand the power of observation and the distinction between polar and nonpolar attention, let's bring it down to earth with 3 practical steps. Think of them as a blueprint for manifesting the reality you truly want. The first step is acceptance. Accepting your present situation might sound like the opposite of changing it, but it's actually the doorway to transformation. When you reject or resist what's happening, like being in denial about a dead-end job or a toxic relationship, you put yourself at war with reality. You spend energy complaining, blaming, or hiding from what is. Acceptance, by contrast, is like pausing to take a clear look at where you stand. It doesn't mean you love or approve of the situation. It means you acknowledge it honestly and recognize that this is your starting point. Only when you clearly see where you are can you plan a route to where you want to go. Imagine trying to use a GPS app that can't locate your starting position. It would be impossible to map out a route. Acceptance is like allowing the GPS to find you so you can figure out the next steps. The second step is finding the blessing. This doesn't require you to slap a fake smile on and declare every hardship amazing. Rather, it's about searching for hidden gifts or opportunities in what looks like a setback. For example, if you lose your job, you could spend all your time lamenting your bad luck and feeling anxious about bills. Or you could look deeper and discover that part of you has always wanted to start your own business. Getting laid off might be the push you need to explore that passion. Or maybe you're forced to learn new skills that open doors you hadn't noticed before. Finding the blessing reframes problems as catalysts. It doesn't mean you won't experience sadness or frustration, but you shift your focus to possibilities rather than disasters. This doesn't just help you feel better, it helps you take more constructive actions. By consistently looking for the lesson or silver lining, you expand your field of vision to see solutions and pathways that fear or anger might obscure. The third step is redirecting attention. Now that you've accepted where you are and gleaned any blessings, it's time to aim your flashlight where you actually want to go. If you've been fixated on problems, let's say financial worries, you've probably been inadvertently feeding the feeling of scarcity. By redirecting your attention toward abundance, creative thinking, or new opportunities, you shift that energy flow. You start noticing ways to earn more, ways to cut unnecessary expenses, or ways to leverage your skills in a way you previously overlooked. Redirecting attention is like physically turning your flashlight from a dark corner to an open door. The corner didn't vanish, but it's no longer the main thing you're illuminating. Your focus, your emotional fuel, now goes toward what you desire: stability, freedom, or growth. When you do this consistently, you'll be amazed at how your actions and experiences begin to align with those positive aims rather than with your fears. Putting these steps together, acceptance, finding the blessing, and redirecting your attention, you create a powerful formula for change. You disarm the friction that comes from resisting reality, you harness the lessons that challenges offer, and you consciously direct your energy toward constructive outcomes. This is how you co-create your reality with the world around you, tapping into a well of creativity and resourcefulness that often remains dormant when you're stuck in polar attention. The transformation mindset. Even with these steps in mind, Lasting transformation requires more than a single breakthrough moment. It involves cultivating a mindset that aligns your heart and mind, your deepest desires, and your logical planning, so you can sustain the energy needed to shape your reality. Your heart is where your core dreams and values reside. It knows what you truly want: meaningful work, fulfilling relationships, or perhaps a mission that lights you up inside. Your mind is the strategic powerhouse. It analyzes, plans, and breaks tasks into manageable steps. When the heart and mind are in sync, it's like two strong wheels on a bike, propelling you forward smoothly. But if they're misaligned, maybe your heart is pulling you toward a creative calling, while your mind insists it's too risky, you'll find yourself stuck or moving in circles. A classic example is Thomas Edison. He was fueled by a powerful vision of creating electric light for everyday use, but he also had the perseverance and analytical mind to approach the problem systematically. Legend says he failed more than 1,000 times before finally succeeding. Imagine if his heart longed for invention, but his mind gave up after the 10th or 20th failed experiment. Or imagine if his mind was brilliant, but his heart wasn't truly committed. He might have lacked the passion to keep going. It's the fusion of heart and mind that creates breakthroughs. Take a moment to consider where your own heart and mind might be out of sync. Do you crave adventure while your thoughts remain tethered to caution and fear? Or perhaps you have an exciting business idea, but keep talking yourself out of trying it. The transformation mindset begins by acknowledging any disconnect between your heartfelt desires and your mental strategies. Then you work to bridge that gap by consciously redirecting your focus and reminding yourself of why these goals matter to you. One practical way to keep heart and mind aligned is through consistent reflection, journaling, meditation, or even having regular conversations with mentors or supportive friends. When you reflect, you notice if you're slipping back into old polar attention habits or letting fear overshadow your vision. You can then course correct by reaffirming your intention. I choose to create a fulfilling life. I'm allowed to dream big, and I'm capable of figuring out the practical steps. Another key aspect is what some call inspired action. Instead of running on autopilot or forcing yourself to do things you resent, you seek actions that feel meaningful, purposeful, or at least aligned with your higher goals. This doesn't mean you'll never do mundane tasks. Every path involves some routine work, but you approach even the routine stuff with a sense of intention that connects it back to the bigger picture. When your heart and mind form a team, you unlock a level of resilience you might not have realized you had. Even if things don't go perfectly at first, you adapt and learn because your heart is fueling you with the drive to keep going, while your mind is offering solutions for each challenge that appears. This synergy is the essence of the transformation mindset, and it's what separates fleeting changes from lasting personal evolution. If you're intrigued by these ideas and want to explore them further, consider simple daily practices. Maybe each morning you spend 5 minutes setting an intention for where you want to aim your flashlight that day. Or each evening, reflect on one challenge you faced and ask yourself how you could have approached it from a more neutral stance. Over time, these practices train your mind and heart to operate in unison, minimizing the time you spend stuck in reactive modes. You might also share this journey with a friend or a community that values conscious living. When you exchange stories of shifting your perspective and noticing blessings, you reinforce these habits socially. You also build a sense of accountability, an awareness that you're not alone in learning to wield your attention more effectively. Whether you're reading these words as someone who is simply curious or someone who's genuinely yearning for a breakthrough, know that the power is always within you. The outside world will always have ups and downs, successes and failures, joys and sorrows. What you can control, and it's a monumental power, is how you direct your attention and thus your energy. In doing so, you participate in the subtle dance of creation that shapes your experience of reality. You move from being a passive observer or a perpetual reactor to an intentional creator. Let this resonate. Where attention goes, energy flows. Make it your mantra when you notice yourself spiraling into worst-case scenarios or overthinking. Use it when you find yourself mindlessly scrolling on your phone or dwelling on grudges. Remind yourself in those moments, you can take that beam of light and point it somewhere else, somewhere that nurtures your growth, your peace, and your vision for what a fulfilling life looks like. Feel free to share your thoughts or experiences with this process. Maybe you've tried it before and have a personal story of how changing your focus made a tangible difference. Or perhaps you're new to these ideas and find them both exciting and intimidating at the same time. Either way, dialogue fosters growth. And if you're moved by what we've discussed, spread the word or invite others into the conversation. In the end, every moment offers a choice to sink deeper into old narratives or step forward into a new possibility. By practicing acceptance, seeking the hidden blessings, and consciously redirecting your attention, you prepare the soil for transformation. Your heart and mind, working in harmony, become the steering wheel that guides your life. And that's how you manipulate your energy, by noticing where your focus lies and daring to aim it at a future you truly want to live. Above all, remember this: you already have everything you need to create meaningful shifts in your life. The practice is simple but not always easy. It involves curiosity, discipline, and sometimes stepping outside your comfort zone. Yet each step you take in this direction is a step toward greater freedom, creativity, and authenticity. So take a moment right now, if you can, and ask yourself, what is my flashlight shining on at this very moment? Is it locked on a problem, a fear, or a complaint? Or is it exploring a new idea, a hopeful possibility, or a gentle acceptance of what is? The choice is always yours, and the ripple effects of that choice can be life changing. Thank you for taking this journey with me. May your focus illuminate the best path forward, and may you continually discover just how powerful you are when you consciously direct your energy toward the reality you want.